This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Yeah, it's not ideal, falling behind, and especially against a team we haven't really scored much on. But it was tough. We've played these guys 3 times, and came away with 1 point. And I honestly think we probably deserved a little bit of fate. But I like the way we're playing. And listen, we're on the road. We held a first place team to 1 shot in 1 period and 7 shots total in the final 2 periods. So it's tough to not walk away with 2 points. But when they needed to defend, they did. And when they needed to save, the goalie made it. And when they needed the post, they got that too. So you add those up and, it turns into only 1 out of 2 for us.
Those darn Islanders. Darn Islanders, partner. It is what it is. But, I'm not sure I'm going to quibble too much collectively with the Lightning's effort against the Islanders over that 3-game span that was in a short amount of time. But this one, especially this last game, how many shots in that second period? 17?
Mm-hmm.
I think if these teams were to meet in the playoffs, would this be a tough series? Yes. But even though the Islanders have won 3, I like the Lightning overall. But credit where credit's due. The Islanders, you can't take it away from them. They did what they had to do to take points from the Lightning. But it's hard for me to get really upset, and that's probably the wrong word, but I'll use it here, about the Lightning's play, because usually if they play like that, I feel like they're going to get points 6 to 7 out of 10 times they play. So that's kind of where I am on the game. We'll get into it and break it all down, but man, it's hard to feel disappointed after the performance they had, knowing that, look, the other team had something to say about it.
So I read John Cooper's post-game comments before I actually heard them and saw him say those post-game comments, because when I read them, I thought Coop is not as satisfied with his road point as I was or as you were. We talked about it after the game on Saturday. It's like, hey, this team held you to 1 goal in 2 games. You're down 2-0, 10 minutes and change into the game. You got a point out of this game. That's something. And the way they played, the Lightning, how hard they worked.
Yeah.
They had to scratch and claw for everything that they got against the Islanders. And I think they deserve credit for that. So I don't think you ever turn your nose up at a road point. Maybe if you're up 5-0 on the road and you blow it and you lose in overtime, that's a harder one to swallow. A game like this, though, kind of like that's a well-earned road point. Then I kind of saw Coop as he was answering the question and heard him. I'm not sure that he was disappointed. He was kind of laughing it off. And look, this is what defending will do for you, Greg, if you're the Islanders. So I thought the first game of the 3 was honestly, I would probably give an edge to the Islanders in that game. The Lightning were a little flat. Did they do enough to get a point out of it? They lost 2-1. They did. They had a lot of pressure at the end of the game, 6-on-5. Maybe they could have tied the game. The Islanders definitely defended well. That was one of those games that you were talking about. Sorokin didn't wow me, which I think is fair, because I think he was adequate. Like, he wasn't asked to do anything more than that.
Right.
You want to call that one a coin toss game beyond the score? Okay, maybe a slight edge to the Islanders. There's no question in my mind the Lightning outplayed the Islanders in games 2 and 3. And it was very pronounced in the game on Saturday. But even the game in Tampa, it was a 0-0 game into the final 10 minutes, and the Islanders got a break with that high stick that was called on review on Hagel. They got a break when they got away with a slash that would have taken them off the power play. And they got a break when the shot was deflected wide. They got a break when the Lightning broke a stick in the penalty kill. And then Cal Ritchie made a really nice play off the end wall and scored the goal that gave them the win. Why did they get the win? They didn't get the win because they scored on the power play. I mean, they did, but they got the win because they defended. They kept the Lightning to 0 goals in large part because they really worked hard defensively, even as kind of the flow of the game was going against them. The Lightning outplayed the Islanders in that second game, but they didn't get rewarded, excuse me, in part because the Islanders D'd up, and Sorokin was, again, solid. This last game, I still think the Islanders D'd up, but the Lightning did more to break them down. And I think if we look at this game, like there's no disputing, Sorokin stole the game. He stole the game for the Islanders. He faced more scoring chances in that one game than he did in the previous two combined. And the Lightning did certainly enough to overcome the 2-goal deficit, but they didn't. And why didn't they? Again, if you keep the puck out of your net, you're going to give yourself a chance to get points. And that was the Islanders' formula. I actually agree with you if these teams were to meet in a playoff series, and who knows how the rosters would look. I think both teams would hope that they're healthier than they are now, although Romanov and Palmieri, I think, are out for the year for them. But even with different lineups, if we just kind of bake that into the cake, and these games unfold much the same way, it should be a very tight, close game, defensive-minded game. But kind of the reason why analytics matter, the reason why people invest in analytics, both money and belief, decisions are made on analytics. There is some truth to the analytics that if you outplay a team, you are more likely to win that game. Sometimes you don't. But over a 7-game series, if you outplay the other team and you see them every other night in a row, you are probably going to come out on top. Is there a guarantee the Lightning would continue to outplay the Islanders? Who knows? They definitely did in the second and third games, though, and they got 1 point out of it. That's frustrating. But what I take out of it is at least they got a point. At least they got that game to overtime.
Correct.
And the shootout, they could have won the shootout. I mean, shootouts are coin tosses. It's not like the Islanders have gone, they've played 6 now. The Lightning was their first. It's not like the Islanders have gone 6-0 in the shootout. They're 3-3. Literally the definition of a coin toss. Flip a coin 6 times. How often is it going to be 3 heads, 3 tails, right? The statisticians out there can tell me. But, you're going to get to 50%. You're going to get 50-50 with enough of a sample size. So the Islanders won that one. Credit to them. Points scored, it wasn't enough because they got goals from Barzal and Heineman. That's why I got the second point, not because they outplayed the Lightning or anything like that. They got the game to overtime because their goalie bailed them out, basically. You know what I liked about the game for the Lightning, Greg? I liked how hard they worked in the face of adversity, and they stuck with it. They kept battling. I know these are kind of trite cliches, but you could see how hard they were working to win pucks and set up chances because they knew it was going to be tough to generate opportunities to score against this team, but they didn't let their level dip one iota. And then when it was 2-2 and the Islanders had a little bit of something going earlier in the third, they had a power play. They pushed a little bit on the Lightning to the halfway point. I thought the Lightning dominated the last 10 minutes. They didn't generate 15 scoring chances. What I mean is they played with the puck. The Islanders didn't get a sniff in the last 10 minutes of regulation. We saw the Gord line out there control the puck in the offensive zone, cycle it around. Other lines fed off of that. The Lightning could have scored. Radish at the post in the last minute, right? But at no point in the last 10 minutes did I see anything from the Islanders that would lead me to believe that they were going to get the goal like they did in the game in Tampa. That's a credit to the Lightning. They did enough to make sure that we got this game tied. We are not letting it slip away. We are basically putting our foot on the Islanders' throat, and we are dictating the last 10 minutes, and they did it. Now, in overtime, it was more, I shouldn't even say wide open. Both teams, I thought, were conservative in overtime, actually, and maybe the Islanders had a slight edge, and then it went to the shootout, and the Islanders get the second point. But, the Lightning did everything they needed to do after a very tough start to get that game tied and give themselves a chance to win it in regulation. But if they didn't, at the very least, they were getting a point, which they banked. So now they come home, 5 of the next 6 at home, next 4 at home leading into Christmas. They have the Panthers in tonight who are playing better. Doug Plagens will be joining us as soon as he's done with his media responsibilities. and the Lightning move on. But, they brought home more points than games, 5 on a 4-game trip. And I thought it was a good finish to the road trip.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it sets up a fun game tonight, Monday night, here at Benchmark International. We did get some news, right, today, if we want to talk about some personnel
some injury
decisions.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we knew before the game, Victor
That was
Hedman.
the bad part about Saturday's game for sure, is that Lilleberg got hurt, and he's going to be out long term.
And that was announced after we found out Victor Hedman was going to be out for an extended period of time. Right around the Olympics, partner. You never know how those things play out, but we had thought, look, I know I had said on these broadcasts that just Hetty didn't look himself. And so from a production perspective, maybe we have our answer.
Yeah.
There was something bothering him. And it is also very important to a couple of things. One, you are winning games, even though he has not been in the lineup, and when he has played, been the Victor Hedman we've seen over the years. But more importantly, now this gives him an opportunity to really use the last couple of months, hopefully of the regular season, to get ready for the playoffs and just kind of, look, get your legs, be healthy for the stretch run, because a healthy Victor Hedman with this team, that's fun to watch. Don't know if it's going to play out that way, but man, you get him playing at a level, because that can help out the power play. See, this is where I'm going with it, is that Hetty does a lot of good things. We know he's captain, good passer. He can be physical at times when he wants to, but he really can make a difference on the power play. And if he's healthy and he can get that shot through, I know Stamkos isn't on the other side for that one-timer. I know they've tried some things. It hasn't worked. But Hedman is an accomplished player that maybe it could peak at the right time. So, and you don't need to rush him too, because you've had some guys. McDonough, what's the latest on McDonough? He's close.
He's getting close.
Right? He's close.
We can run down all of the injuries here.
Run him down.
Coop
We'll get
was
some
asked.
questions too.
So let me just say this about Hedman. First of all, it's his elbow. So in terms of the rehab, he will be able to skate. I think some fans are like, well, why would he be going to the Olympics? First of all, if he has a chance to go to the Olympics, he's going to go to the Olympics. That's assuming his rehab goes on the schedule that was kind of laid out, where he might be back right around the time of the outdoor game. If he misses the outdoor game, the Olympics are happening about a week after that. I think it would actually be strictly from the, where will Victor Hedman's game be as it relates to helping the Lightning? I think if we just look at that question alone, him going to the Olympics is a good thing, because he's going to get game reps playing in the Olympics, right? At very high level competition. So I actually think those reps will benefit him. And I mean, people are like, what about the rest? Well, he will have been rehabbing for 6 weeks, thereabouts. So I think that's not a concern. The question is, how long will the rehab take? And echoing your thoughts from Friday, which we had our show on Friday, and then the news came down soon after about this procedure, so we didn't talk about it on Friday. But remember what you said was, Greg, maybe it was not Friday, maybe it was an earlier show, but after Hedman was basically shut down again. You're like, however long it takes to get him right. Well, knock on wood, this procedure is going to do just that. And if he is able to return for the stretch run after the Olympics, or maybe a game or two before the Olympic break, great. Other injuries. McDonough is close. McDonough was on the ice. He basically was a participant in the morning skate, which was a full skate. So that's good news. He's in the day-to-day range. Vasilevsky, it looks like, will back up. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It seems like he's in a position to back up Johansson tonight. Halverson is still here, though. So I'm saying that because Vasilevsky did participate in the skate. He was in the non-starters net. So he was seeing regular work. What Coop said was, I thought he was going to play on the road trip. I was wrong about that, basically. Now we're home. I hope he gets into one of these games before Christmas. So it won't be tonight. There are going to be 3 games left before the Lightning have their Christmas break. So we'll see if he can get into one of those games. He's getting there, though. I mean, he is getting there. As far as the other guys, longer term. Lilleberg, much more than day-to-day. Coop made kind of a comment about love to get him back before the Olympics. So you're looking at least a month, I would say, and maybe closer to a month and a half. Who else? Chernak, we haven't seen him on the ice, so he is still a ways away. Is there anybody else? I forgot. I'm looking in Steve's
No, Santini
direction.
gets called up.
Santini gets called up, and that's for the Lilleberg injury.
That's
now,
tough on
look,
Lilleberg.
if McDonough is on the brink of returning, the Lightning will be back to 7 defensemen, and maybe they make a roster move. But at this point, they're going to call up Santini. Look for Santini and Carlisle to be reunited. Crozier, who is playing with Carlisle, will move on to a pairing with Destu, and those two played together in Long Island after the Lilleberg injury. And then you got Radish and Moser. Looks like Douglas is coming in for James tonight. Gonsalves is going to be scratched again. So what is that going to be? 4th straight game for Gonsalves, scratched. Jack Finley was sent to Syracuse on a conditioning assignment. You're allowed to do that once, where the player doesn't have to clear waivers, still counts against the cap.
Makes some sense.
He'll be down there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, makes some
sense.
sense.
So he is not on the NHL roster. I mean, he is, but he isn't. So from a cap standpoint, he is. From a will he play standpoint, he's not. And there you go. So basically from the last game, Santini comes in for the injured Lilleberg. Douglas comes in for James.
You know, for a second there, partner, I was going to bring up, it's kind of interesting, Douglas in for James. And then I'm like, well, they're playing the Panthers tonight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Douglas had a good game in the first meeting between the teams.
But you're going to have Douglas and Sabrin, correct? I mean, they're going to be on the ice.
Yeah, with Nick Paul.
There you go.
Who's playing his 500th game tonight.
Good for him. Some milestones for Nick Paul recently. 100th goal, right? 500th game played. But that makes a lot more sense if you're just like, oh, okay. Now, basically, you have two guys who are going to try and police the game tonight.
Yeah.
If you think it could take a turn for the worst. And Santini can handle himself, too. He's been around, the league a while. Fun game to play for Lightning fans and for us. When everybody's healthy, who are your 7 best defensemen? Because I got to tell you, that is a really fascinating question. I think if you would have asked us this before the season started, we might have said it's pretty easy. I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I get the righty-lefty thing. If you really want to stick to it, I don't know. I don't know anymore. But some guys also have elevated their play. Like Moser scores a goal. Has he been the most steady defenseman from start to finish now? I don't want to say best, but you could if you wanted to.
He's 6th in plus minus in the entire NHL.
That's incredible.
And all of the guys ahead of him are either members of the Colorado Avalanche or Washington Capitals. And the Capitals are a great 5-on-5 team. They've been a great 5-on-5 team all year, and we've talked about that. And the Avalanche have just been a great team all year. So you're in some pretty heady company there. And it's not a fluke.
I would agree.
He's getting all the hardest assignments. He's the best on the team. I'm actually checking that right now. Well, Hagel's plus 19. He's the best defenseman on the team. Hagel plus 19, Surly plus 15, Moser plus 18. So, yeah, I think
that's incredible.
The answer to your question is yes. He has been the most consistent defenseman for the
sure.
Lightning.
When you talk about players elevating, I don't know if you can always rely on players getting to Moser's level who have kind of been in the league a little bit, and maybe marginally they're moving the needle a little bit in their play. They go through a nice stretch, or maybe they're off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Moser, and maybe it's comfort, maybe it's he had more room to grow in his game. Whatever it is, partner, we are seeing the very best of J.J. Moser right now.
Yeah.
At his age, and he's not an old guy, of course, but this has gone a long way. Probably one of the unsung stories of this year that's allowed that back end to perform the way they have is that Moser's been a mainstay back there.
And I should clarify, when I said 6th, I meant among defensemen.
Yeah, still.
I realized I didn't qualify that because obviously Hagel is higher than him.
Sure.
You got Makar at plus 30. You got Chikrin at plus 23. Josh Manson at plus 21. Matt Roy at plus 21, Devon Taves at plus 20. So 3 Colorado defensemen, 2 Washington defensemen, and then Moser.
That is fun, considering all the other things. And 2 goals from defensemen against the Islanders. Again, Darren
Yes.
Radish gets another goal. I mean,
Can you believe in the history of the Tampa Bay Lightning, there's never been a defenseman with a 4-game goal streak? Radish has tied the franchise record
Really?
with goals in 3. Yeah, and
Interesting.
Sergachev was the guy who had it. He would have thought maybe Dan Boyle or Kubina or
Kubina, I
Hedman.
thought, for sure.
Yeah.
Hedman, right? Hedman. I mean, he's had a couple of prolific, Shattenkirk even, to a lesser extent, who's an offensive
He only
guy.
had the 1 year.
He had
but I
the
mean,
1 year.
The Lightning
That's
been around
interesting.
since 92,
So what you're saying is he's got
Roman
scored tonight?
Hammerlick, even that first
Roman
year they made the playoffs, he was scoring a bunch from the blue
Yeah.
line.
Jan Ruta?
Interesting.
No, I'm just joking. That is interesting, but I think it also speaks to his again, something to be said for guys reaching a level you didn't anticipate. I didn't anticipate Moser getting to where he was right now. Knew he was a good defensive player. Much better last year during the first half than when he came back. I think most people agreed on that. So
Yeah.
you didn't know what you were having when you came back. But nobody anticipated Radish
No,
getting to where he
not
is.
after
And
he was scratched 6
well,
times.
he's getting the playing time. So this is where it's like we would have never known had there not been opportunities. And to his credit, because how many times do you get an opportunity in life and some people don't seize it? He has.
right.
He has. And he's done incredible things.
Got a good story to share with you, which I actually asked John Cooper about. And I
Tell
think
me.
Coop didn't remember this. I didn't remember it either.
What's the story?
I remembered a little bit about it. So Yanni Gourde has a birthday today. So a milestone night
Nice.
for Nick
Happy
Paul,
birthday to him.
500 NHL games. Yanni Gourde's birthday is today, 34. So I'm like, look, if you're a hockey player and you have a December birthday, this can't be the first time you've played on your birthday. He's like, nope. I said, any other memorable ones? He's like, yeah, actually, my NHL debut was on my birthday. And I'm like, what?
Nice.
It's like, I don't remember, because it was with the Lightning. I'm like, I don't remember that. He's like, yeah. I said, your NHL debut was in Toronto. He's like, yup. I remembered the game. I had forgotten that it was his birthday. So the story is, Yanni said this, and then I confirmed it. I went and checked. So he and Mike Blunden were called up from Syracuse. They both played their first game with the Lightning on December 15th, 2015.
Mike
Blunden had been in the NHL before, so it was not his debut. But Mike Blunden's birthday is also December 15th. So they both played for the Lightning on their birthday. For Yanni, it was his first NHL game. For Blunden, it was his first game with the Lightning that year. And Blunden scored in the third period, and Gourde had an assist. He's like, yeah, I had an assist in my debut. Blunden scored. The Lightning rallied and beat Toronto in overtime. And he's like, yeah, that was on my birthday. Okay, well, that one takes the cake, no pun intended, because clearly it's hard to top that. NHL debut on your birthday, you get your first NHL point, and it's a big goal. It got the Lightning. It was in the third period. It might have tied the game at the time. So I asked Coop about it. Coop was like, you expect me to remember that? I'm like, that's actually something that you tend to remember, right? And so what he said, what I said was, could you have ever thought that when Yanni Gourde came up and made his debut, and he only played one other game, played 2 nights later, 3 nights later, and then the Lightning sent him down. He was down in Syracuse the whole rest of the year. It was the next year that he came up and really made his mark. And Coop was like, what he has done to turn himself into an NHLer and Stanley Cup champion, like, at some point, Steve will probably get that soundbite. But the interesting part about making your debut on your birthday, and here we are 10 years later, right? He's like, yeah, I was 24 when I made my debut. Now he's 34.
That is crazy. Mike Blunden, by the way,
Yes,
he had the
Mike
famous. Was it the famous game where it was
in the
Detroit?
playoffs.
It was where he was just bloody everywhere. Remember
Right.
that? Where was it?
Well, it was the Abdulcator. Wasn't
I was
going to
say it was Abdulcator.
situation? And then Brian
Yes.
Boyle in Game 3
Yes.
challenged Abdulcator, who would not fight him.
Yes,
And
that's
Boyle did the
exactly
chicken.
it. I think Abdulcator.
You're a chicken.
I think he punched Blunden in the scrum when they were on the ground.
Yes.
And
was
that was
not
his-
it was not a quote unquote fair fight.
No, he was looking. And
Yeah.
Blunden, if you go back and watch the YouTube clips, he's like, what are you doing? But Mike Blunden, there's a guy. I mean, you want to talk about how far the Lightning have come with their role players, by the way?
Yeah. Although it is interesting that he got into a playoff game.
He did.
Right?
No, Mike Blunden for, like a year was really part of like the Lightning's lineup. Like
how many games he played that year.
He was
gotten my curiosity peaked.
I'm going to say he played between 20 and 30 games.
Was it that many?
Is my guess. Because I think there were some injuries.
Check it. Well, they definitely had injuries that year. That was the year where their second half really helped them get into the playoffs.
Right. He wasn't the fastest skater. I remember that.
15-16 with the Lightning. Well, 20 games. You were right.
Yeah.
Yanni only got 2. He got 20, and then he played 7 games in the playoffs.
Okay. I'm going to say, here, you're going to test me here.
He had 2 games the year before in 14-15, so he spent a couple of years in the Lightning's organization.
Blunden, I'm going to say.
It was his debut with the Lightning, but it was his debut that year when he came up and played on his birthday.
Between 4 and 5 goals he had in those 20 games.
3 goals.
Okay.
3 goals, 5 points. But he scored in the first game that I just told you.
Yeah. Mike Blunden. We've come a long way.
After that year, he only played 3 more NHL games.
Yeah,
2 with Ottawa the next year, and then 1 with Ottawa the year after.
That was it.
He went to Europe. Yeah.
That was it. That was it for Mike Blunden.
Former second-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm not going to dedicate the rest of the show to Mike Blunden. I think what
I'm
hurt him.
I'm impressed about your memory with Mike Blunden.
Certain things stick. He had trouble skating. I remember he wasn't the fastest guy. I think probably the way the league was going to was. But I do remember him. Tough guy, forward. There were some elements.
He had
to his
a good year in Syracuse. Both years were okay, but the second year, the year that he came up with Gord, 49 games, he had 38 points with Syracuse, 21 goals.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, good for him.
He was a strong right wing power forward type.
He was.
Yeah.
And he got more run on this show than any other show ever that ever covered hockey.
Well,
we appreciate
happy
that
birthday, Yanni Gord. Anyway, he was in the center for the Stick Tops, not Nick Paul, who's playing his 500th game.
That's pretty cool.
So Doug Plagens is here, so he'll get settled in as we
Doug probably likes those
reminisce.
Let me do our read.
Actually,
let me do our
here's another stat that nobody outside of maybe Pantherland would know or remember, but I do. So the 15-16 season, the season that we're talking about with Yanni Gord coming up on his birthday, making his debut, Mike Blunden scoring in that first game, Yanni gets an assist as Doug gets settled here with the headsets. The 2015-16 season, I'm trying to tread water here for him to join us. All right. Are
you dancing, partner?
I was dancing a little bit.
I am here.
All right. So this season that we're talking about, Doug, Yanni Gord on his birthday comes up, makes his debut, has an assist. On that particular play, Mike Blunden scores a goal. The 15-16 season was your first season in the NHL.
It was my first season.
Look at that.
Yep. Didn't
Do I
debut
know my
on my
colleagues
birthday,
or
though.
what?
Didn't debut on my birthday, though.
No.
But it was my
Well,
first
I don't
season.
know when your birthday is.
It's in June.
Okay.
So
did you get the news in June that you were getting the job?
No, it was. I was still working in Cleveland and had no idea what the future might hold at that point in time.
Here we are, a decade later, and you and I have done more shows together. We were trying to remember, you've been the host, I've been the host. You put on the road jersey, I put on the road jersey. So here you are. Welcome to our studio.
When we
Welcome, Doug.
over on Panthers Insider, you're a friend of the program. You're not just a guest. You're a friend of the program. You've reached that level, that tier, that status.
So here we are, about a third. Sorry, Greg.
Look
No,
at
go
this.
for
This is high tech and amazing.
We're big time here, Doug. We're big time. Go ahead, partner.
We do
Go
5
ahead.
shows a week, so we've worked up to this.
That's right.
Panthers were adrift a little bit at the start of the year. The injuries obviously didn't help, but a little bit from afar, it looks like things are rounding into gear. Is that a fair assessment? And if so, how have they rounded into gear?
I think, for one, you go into the season with no Barkov, no Kachuk. That's 160, 180 points out of your lineup. So obviously things are going to look different just with a couple of guys like that out. And then in the second game of the year, Dmitry Kulikov goes down, and the Panthers found out that was going to be about 5 months. And we haven't seen Tomas Nosek yet this season. Jonah Gadjevich is going to be out for a bit longer here. He's all told, it'll have been probably, when it first happened, they said that was going to be about a 3-month situation there. So you have those players out of the lineup. Cole Schwint wasn't a regular when the season started, played himself into being a regular, and then they found out he was going to be out for a few months. So they've been dealing with this since the start of the season, and right now without 6 guys that were every night parts of the playoff run last year. So you knew things were going to look a little bit different, but it just speaks to the depth that they've had and the system that Paul Maurice has in place. They've been able to keep things moving along. And coming off this game against the Dallas Stars back on Saturday that I think I just talked to Paul Maurice, and he said that was the kind of game you could put your training camp video together using that game. They loved what they did against the Stars back on Saturday night. And as far as I was concerned, I said it on the air as it was happening and right after it happened in the postgame that was kind of the blueprint game for the Panthers, that 4-0 win over Dallas the other night. So your question, how has it rounded into form? They've continued to be very good on the penalty kill. They've been good at 5-on-5. The power plays found ways to contribute, and offensively they found some line combos that have really worked, and they've been able to produce without some of their biggest point producers, obviously, in the lineup this season. Like I said, you knew it was going to look different. It has, but the Panthers have found ways to keep winning and have themselves in this race.
You know, Doug, it's interesting because we got this question a lot when the Lightning were making deep runs, back-to-backs. Obviously, the Panthers have done that as well. Kind of the after effects of playing that many games that next season. Guys get injured. We've seen that. The Lightning have had a lot of injuries. I know the Panthers have. Any of that related, do you think, the wear and tear of long runs, or do you think these are just fluky injuries and you kind of just say that this is hockey and that happens?
Yeah, I think they're just things that have happened. Paul Maurice was just asked about it, just kind of a 35,000-foot view. How have they managed to keep this rolling without really having off seasons? They haven't really had that recovery time maybe that some of the other teams have had. And the Lightning know this from going years back, but Paul Maurice has said this year they know how to handle it because they dealt with it last year. They know how to navigate coming off playing into June and then having a condensed schedule. Last year there was a Four Nations break, so it caused the schedule to maybe have a few curveballs placed into it last year. They're dealing with the same thing this year with an Olympic break coming up. So, again, it's a condensed schedule. We've had that for a couple of years. The Panthers know what it's like to not only have to deal with not having that off season, but they know what it's like to be a team that's circled on everybody's schedule. When you are a contender and when you're a team that has had success like they have, and the Lightning know this from going back a handful of years. You know what it's like to be the team that everybody has circled on the calendar, and they've been dealing with that for a few years now. So again, I think it's just now at this point, having gone through this process a couple of times, they just know what to expect, not handle it.
So most of the guys that you mentioned that are injured, it's pretty clear that their return is not imminent. The one that is a little more unclear is Tkachuk, because originally, I guess we heard, as you said, December-ish. Well, we're in December.
Yep.
Can you give us an update on where things stand there?
I really don't have anything beyond what's out there, but yeah, that was the original timetable, December-ish. But Bill Zito said this was in training camp. He said December-ish, but don't hold me to that. So maybe there's some give or take as far as that goes. But obviously would be a huge add for the Panthers to be able to get him back into the mix. No question about it. It's not just the point production, but it's also how vocal he is, his leadership, the emotion that he plays with. I mean, he embodies really everything this Panthers team's been about the last few seasons since he arrived on the scene. So, hey, we're hoping that it's going to be sooner rather than later, but still in a little bit of a wait and see pattern on that. And I don't really have any info other than what's out there right now.
Doug, Carter Verhaeghe's heating up. Just a slow start for him. Line changes. What do you make of where he is now and where he was?
He's just gotten hot, and I tell you what, when his hot streaks, when he really gets going, it's like if you played NBA Jam back in the '90s and the ball catches on fire and everything.
It's a great
goes
game,
in.
isn't it?
When he gets hot, it's kind of like that. His hot streaks are different than other people's hot streaks. He just starts feeling it, and he's found great chemistry with Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. The three of them have been a really productive line since they've been put together. And for Carter Verhaeghe, it's just a matter of, hey, early in the year it wasn't for. It was just a matter of pucks just weren't going in the net. And sometimes that can happen to a guy. But if you stay with it, if you keep at it and you have as dangerous a shot as he possesses and you get yourself in the right position like he always does, eventually things are going to break in your favor if you just stay with it when you're that kind of offensive player and that kind of goal scorer. So for him, it was just a matter of keeping at it, and eventually the pucks that weren't going in the net early started going in the net, and that's where we are right now. And he's been on a hot streak, and his hot streak kind of coincides with a hot streak that Sam Bennett's been on. The two of them have been kind of rolling along together, and Brad Marchand has gone in on that line with those two and continued to produce like he has been all season long, leading the Panthers in goals and points. So he's picked up a lot of the slack and really helped with a team that you knew was going to be having a little bit different looking attack without Barkov and Tkachuk in the lineup to start.
I was very interested to look at the Panthers' schedule, and sometimes the two teams, their schedules kind of mirror each other, because when teams come to Florida, they usually play both teams. So when the Panthers tend to be home, the Lightning tend to be home, and vice versa. I've never seen this, though, on a Lightning schedule, and I've been with the team for over 20 years. After this game tonight, Panthers play 8 of their next 9 at home, leading into the Winter Classic. That I get. Yep. Like, you want to be at home, get ready for that. But still, 8 of 9 at home is very home intensive. And then after that, you play 9 of 10 on the road. What do you make of this stretch? Have you ever experienced anything like this before? And did the Panthers get an explanation as to why they had this weird kind of scheduling quirk back to back, like all these home games followed by all these road games?
This year, I've chalked it up to, I'm sure everybody's dealing with it. January's probably going to be a wild month for everybody.
And the Lightning have a lot of road games in January too, but not 9 of 10.
It's and the Panthers just got done with 11 of 12 on home ice, as you mentioned. And you look at the schedule the last few years, where this year's different. The last few seasons, the Panthers were done with Mountain and Pacific time zone games after the start of February. The last few years, they haven't played in the Mountain or Pacific time zone. This year, they do have a Western trip in March, so that's a little bit different than years past. As far as the way January looks, they had a crazy January. It would have been January of 23, the year they went to the Cup final and lost to Vegas. They had a crazy January. I'd have to go place them side by side, but I still feel like that January might have been a crazier month than this January, and this one is not for the faint of heart. But thankfully, the Panthers are they're a solid road team, and they're as battle-tested a group as you're going to see in the league. So to be able to navigate something like that, if there's anybody who can, it's a team with the track record that this one has. But I looked at that schedule and I thought this must just be something that a lot of teams are dealing with, because the Olympics are coming up, and we got to find a way to get all these games in.
Doug, when you look at this team 30-plus games in now, is there anything you can draw from to say, I actually think we're better than what I thought? And maybe conversely, is there another area you said, I thought we'd be better here, but we're not, and maybe that needs to be addressed? Could be guys coming back, or it could be through trade.
I think sitting here over 500 at this point, right in the middle of the race, with, as we move forward, the hope being just to gradually keep getting healthier. I think this team has worked itself into a good and manageable position moving forward. It's kind of where you want to be. You don't want to get to a point where you're sitting there saying, okay, we want the guys to come back, and then when the guys come back, we're going to have to just turn this into a sprint and try to get ourselves back into it. The fact that they've got themselves now in a spot where they're right in the thick of this race, and you hope that the worst is behind you or has already happened as far as injuries are concerned, and fingers crossed on that. But I think they've gotten themselves, all things considered, into a pretty good position here, just right in the middle of the race, and hopefully a place where they can keep trying to make moves. And as you move forward, and when I say make moves in the standings, and I think as they get guys back, they're certainly going to be in a position to be able to do that. You look back when Eetu Luostarinen missed those 8 games, and at that point, it seemed like it was always the news the team kept getting. It was one guy after another. It was, this guy's going to be out. This guy's going to be out. When Eetu Luostarinen came back, before we knew for certain that he was going to return when he did, the day before he was on the ice for practice. And as you guys know, when a guy comes back off injury, whether it's short-term, long-term, whatever, there's kind of a jolt of excitement throughout the team that you get a guy back. There's an energy. We're getting a regular guy back into the lineup, somebody who's important to the team, and everybody kind of rallies around that. And then at the morning skate, when you had a pretty good inkling that he was going to play, that excitement level got heightened. Paul Maurice even described it as it's like when you have a family gathering and it's already a good time, but somebody you didn't expect to be there shows up, and then it becomes an even better time. They were excited to get him back, and I think not only X's and O's and lineup-wise, it's going to be important to get players back, but as you hope that these players start to roll back into the lineup, there's a jolt of energy and excitement that comes along with it. We've seen it once with Ed Tulowost Arena, and it went a long way, and you hope that, again, as this team keeps itself in the race, in a good spot, they can feed off of that as well as time goes on, as hopefully more trickle back into the lineup.
Last one for me, Doug. I'm just looking at the standings right now. I think it's a little less like this in the Metro. Like Carolina has, we'll just say they have a little bit more breathing room. But really in the Atlantic, I mean, you got 7 points separating 8 teams. Every team is at or above Hockey 500. And you said, it's good that the Panthers are in the thick of things, but every team is in the thick of things. Do you expect that this is going to continue this tight through the rest of the regular season? Or do you think at some point we're going to start to see some separation, more separation?
I think it's going to stay tight. That being said, over 82, I tend to favor teams like the Panthers and Lightning over 82 games because the two teams have so many accomplished veterans, guys that know what to expect. They've navigated this. They've been in the playoffs. I feel like there's a lot more wait and see with some of the other teams in the Atlantic. And I am a big believer in what's being built in Montreal and what's being built in Ottawa, for example. But over the course of the grind of an 82-game season, I feel like it favors the teams that have been there before, the Panthers, the Lightning. I do think, and maybe it's just me looking at it thinking they can't fall further back. I do think Toronto is going to, they might not rattle off 10 in a row at some point, but I think they are going to play winning hockey and find themselves back into the mix in the Atlantic when things are said and done.
They have a tough schedule, kind of like the Panthers in that, I mean, even more.
They had a lot of home games already. Yeah,
that's what I mean. The last third of their season, they are on the road a lot, and it's tough when you're having to make up ground potentially.
Yeah,
playing on the road that much
for sure.
We'll
but
see.
I do think that I do tend to favor in a season like this where the schedule is what it is. I tend to favor the veteran teams, but hey, wait and see. I'm a believer in Montreal. I think they're going to have a seat at the table when it's all said and done. But there are some of these teams that have some holes. They have some wait and see. They have some, you got to prove it to me in their lineups. I do like what Ottawa's got too. I think they're going to be a playoff team when it's all said and done. Detroit, very much a wait and see. You like what they're doing right now. Can it last? Who knows? All I know is it's a great division. We knew it coming in. There weren't going to be any nights off. There weren't going to be any freebies in the Atlantic Division. But like I said, over the course of the grind, I tend to favor the veteran teams in that scenario.
Last one for me. What do we expect tonight? Is this going to be crazy? I saw Douglas in for James, and I'm thinking, okay, Saverin's up. We know the history there. What? Or are we just going to have a hockey game and let's move on?
I think you're always going to have a little bit of that rivalry feel. You really can't not have that with how many games these two teams have played against each other. From the Panthers' perspective, I kind of like that this game is where it is on the schedule because in a lot of scenarios, the Panthers have been on the road for over a week at this point. They were in Utah, Colorado, Dallas, and they're finishing up the trip here, which is also, it's strange. Usually a game against the Lightning is an over and back. It's kind of a one-off trip for us. So the fact that it's part of a road trip, the Panthers got here early yesterday, and I feel like we've been in Tampa longer than we've been in Tampa for a regular season game. So I've enjoyed the time here so far, but I think in a lot of scenarios, you might have a game like this on the road, tail end of a trip, and it could be a grind. It could be tough to, there could be fatigue that starts to set in, things like that. But a game like this on the schedule where it is for the Panthers, this is exactly what you want, because it's a game that's not going to be tough to get up for, and it's a game where you're going to be able to maybe tap into those energy reserves naturally just because you have that rivalry feel to it. So it's always a fun one. I know we're excited for it, but I think you also have two teams that are both battling through some injuries and trying to pick up points where they can. And I think that's the first order of business. It sounds cliche, but I think the first order of business here isn't going to be any kind of message sending or anything like that. I think it's 2 big points on the line is what the two teams are going to want.
Doug, we appreciate it, bud. We'll catch you at the rink here in a little bit. And thanks
Absolutely.
for coming on. We always appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks for having me. Always great to see you guys. Every time I come on, there are technological advancements made.
Yes.
So I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, next time we're going to have a spinning top on your head. Maybe have you spin, talking to the microphone as you're make it hard on you. No,
That's
great
right.
stuff.
Thank you
as
so
much,
always,
Doug.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, bud. Want to let everybody know, too, you can enjoy some Refrum tonight. Smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule, and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name. Go Bolts. Enjoy responsibly.
There's
What'd
no
you take from the
rivalry
conversation?
between the broadcasters, just so you know. I mean, you can tell that there's a great deal of respect and kind of collegial friendship, right? That's just the way it is. I mean, we lean on each other.
Yeah.
We get information. We on the Lightning side get information from the Panthers, from the broadcasters. The Panthers people get information from the Lightning. And I'm not talking about like injury news, although we had the info, the update on
get some
Kachuk. It's more about like
tidbits.
how
You
the
get
team
some
is going,
tidbits.
who's going well.
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know, your work colleagues. And Doug and I have known each other very well because we see them so much preseason, regular season for a decade now.
Listen, it's a
So-
fraternity. It's a tight-knit group because there aren't many of them. You know, it's not like there's thousands of NHL broadcasters. I mean, there's
Right.
however many teams. That's you know where we are, and they'll all come say hi to Phil at the
Yes.
beginning, which always makes me laugh.
Now, I will say this.
Yeah,
The Panthers and Leafs, they do not have an easy second half. They do not have an easy final third of the season. They don't, in terms of the home road. Now, the Panthers may benefit from getting healthy, particularly if Kachuk is able to come back and contribute and not just, you know, be there as a presence, right? But, I mean, he will have missed at least, 7 months, 6, 7 months by the time he comes back. So, just looking at their breakdown right now, this is the Panthers. They played 18 home games, 13 road games. They just played 3 road games. So they went 2-1 so far, but they're going to play a road game tonight, and then they play 8 of the next 9 at home. So you can figure out what the split is there. They have a ton of road games basically in the second half once they start this 9 out of 10 on the road. Now, I said that. The Lightning do have 8 of 9 on the road because they go out to California for 3, come home for 1, then they have a 5-game trip. But they're coming home in the middle of that trip. So it doesn't feel like it's as long of a trip. I don't know if the Panthers are going to be away for an extended period of time when they play 9 of 10. But then even after the Olympics, once we get into March, the Panthers only have 8 home games left, 15 road games. So basically 2 out of every 3 games down the stretch are going to be played on the road for the Panthers. And I know they're a good road team. I agree with what Doug said. They have veterans. They know how to do well. It is still difficult. You are more likely to go on a really positive run where you are not spending 8, 9, 10 days on the road. That's why John Cooper says we want to bring home more points than games. You want to basically, you'd love to go like 4-0 on a 4-game road trip, but if you can get 5 points, that's pretty good. 5 points in 4 home games, though, you're like, I think we'd like more. There's a reason for that thinking. So we'll see. Toronto's the same way. Toronto has a ton of road games down the stretch. So the Lightning don't. I mean, the Lightning have probably more of an even split. They have a tough stretch coming out of the Olympic break, but that's like a 2 to 3 week period.
sure.
And then it kind of flips and they have a lot of home games. So we'll see. You're also, and I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to this. I feel like you are more likely to have wear and tear injuries I shouldn't say this, wear and tear injuries on the road, but it just feels like more stuff happens when you're on the road, right? And you're having to bring guys in. By the way, Coop was asked about the condensed schedule today. He had an interesting press conference this morning. He's like, I don't believe the condensed schedule is accounting for these injuries. He said, if you block a shot, you could get injured.
That's kind of what you said.
Lilleberg, somebody fell on Lilleberg's leg.
Right.
He's like, that could have happened at any time. It's hockey, right?
Sure.
So those are his 2 cents.
Jim says, according to Friedman, meaning Elliot Friedman, George Parros was in the arena for the last Lightning Panthers game, and the clubs got a talking to beforehand. That's likely the reason A.J. Greer didn't get involved. Wonder about tonight. Good point.
Well, had you been listening to our broadcast, you would have known. I saw George Parros at the game. I didn't know that. I mean, I presumed that he was there to keep a watchful eye. I didn't know that he had actually spoken to both teams, but we'll see.
And Arrigo says, watch Bjorkstrand's body language lately. No goal celebrations, even in the interviews. Compare his first goals with the team. Looks like he's there because he has to be. Instead, he wants to be. Thoughts?
Yeah, come on.
I think it's a
guy. I think he's relieved at this point that some pucks have started to go in for him.
I think also, too, he's probably a little bit, because of his credentials, a little embarrassed it's gone this long. And he's like, this is my job to score goals. I'm not going to celebrate because I scored one goal.
The 8th goal in an 8-4 game late in the third.
Yeah.
He's probably also thinking, I'm not going to show up the other team. I mean, the other goal he scored made it 5-1 early in the second. Now, the Lightning needed those goals, right? Because they gave up 4, but I don't know. I think he will get plenty excited if the goals keep coming in for him.
I think it's like, look, I have a long way to go to where I want to be. This is a nice start. I'm not going to celebrate. It's kind of like the guy who celebrates a touchdown after going up 35-7. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's just hand the ball.
Let's go. Or a first down when you're marching down the field. 2-minute drill. This is.
Oh, please! Do we have that image?
Lore. Our very, very loyal listeners will know the play to which I am referring.
Chase Claypool.
Greg may not be able to finish the show now.
Well, no, because I remember. Was I showing you the clip, or we were just watching it transpire?
You showed me the actual clip, so we should give some preface this story. The Steelers were down in a game. They're trying to drive down the field. The clock is ticking. They get a first down, but Chase Claypool, the receiver, did not get out of bounds, right? So the clock is still ticking, and he celebrated his first down and did a little dance and shined his shoes and
wasting
the other Steelers
time.
Players are like, could you please get to the line of scrimmage here, right? So I think you found a meme of this guy who's doing a dance. He's an air traffic controller with the.
And he's just motioning. But people got creative.
Go here, he's making the first down motion, dancing around.
If you can send that to the show, please do, because that always gives us a very.
So that sort of celebration is not appropriate at any time.
Yeah.
Particularly when the game's outcome is still in doubt.
We need good laughs today.
I think some of it, though, is related to what you talked about, that Bjorkstrand is finally, right?
Yeah, I mean, been there, done that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. And
also,
I appreciate that.
Score effects.
Sure.
You just scored to make it 8-4. He's not going to go crazy, I don't think.
Yeah. Tampa Bay says, the Vasi news is just getting more concerning day to day. For those just joining, Johansson is in that
I disagree,
tonight.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
He's on the ice. He's practicing. They're being cautious. There's nothing wrong with that. What would have been concerning had he come back and he had a full practice on Friday. Remember when I was dressed in my overcoat for the show?
Yeah, right.
That practice on Long Island. He had a full practice. It was a long practice. He saw a lot of pucks. He was up. He was down. He was making saves. He got a workout in for sure. And then all of a sudden we don't see him again. That's concerning. He's not quite ready yet. But I think he's trending in the right direction. I disagree. But yes, the Lightning, I think, had hoped that he would have been ready before now. But with Vasilevsky, you are not going to rush him back. Same thing you said about Hedman. Plus, Johansson is giving them really great goaltending. I still think they wouldn't have rushed him back even in Johansson not played as well as he has played. But the fact that he is playing as well as he's playing makes the decision even easier.
Yep. Let's get to this one because we are getting pressed for time a little bit. And I think this is a new listener. Austin says, Dave and Greg, been watching and listening to Power Lunch for 3 seasons now, and I can't thank you guys enough for the work you do. My all-time favorite podcast, hands down. That's awesome.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. That person probably knew about the Chase Claypool story.
Yes.
I don't know. I've lost track of how many years ago it was. You can look and see when he played for the Steelers. Was that his last year with the Steelers? Did that little...
Might have been his last game.
Yeah. He bounced around after that. It's like...
Yeah. The best part about that is one of the linemen start yelling at him, and he starts yelling at the lineman back like, what do you mean? I'm allowed to celebrate? I just got a first down. Like, come on, man. That's childish. Jim says, regarding the Panthers, Kachuk's admitted on their podcast that the Lightning are harder to play when they don't have their regulars in. They said the team tends to play simpler with the call-ups. I need more perspective than that because the Lightning have won cups.
It's a little out of context.
Yeah.
Look, if he watched the last game, he saw that Finley, Douglas, and Sabourin maybe was the Lightning's best line in that game, and Finley scored the game-winning goal.
Yep. Come on now. I'm not saying he didn't say that on the podcast. I just think there needs to be a little bit more context surrounded that. Local Nomad, is there any concern for the amount of minor penalties the Stew is taking, or maybe he'll grow out of it like Lilleberg? Have you noticed an uptick in some minors?
Yeah, so what? The last game he took a tripping minor after an icing? Am I remember that right? Or maybe that was the New Jersey game. No, it was the Islander game. That was the penalty in the third period. I don't know. I mean, are they careless penalties? You might say tripping is, but he was with the guy. He was battling the guy. I think the guy made a spin move on him, and Destu's stick got in the way.
Yeah.
The one that he took so he took 2 against the Islanders. The one that he took in the first period, the Lightning were scrambling because it was 4-on-4. They gave up a chance right away. There was another sequence where guys were like Destu was trying to recover and help his team. And he may have taken it to deny a scoring chance. I think it was a cross-ice pass. He tried to tie the guy up and got called for a penalty. That set up the 4-on-3. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. If you're taking what they call lazy penalties, hooks, trips, because you're not in the right position, those are a little harder to stomach. But, look, that is focusing on, I'm not saying he hasn't taken the penalties, but that is focusing on one specific area of his game without acknowledging all of the other really good stuff that he is doing for the Lightning.
Let's get to this one before we sign off, partner. Steve says, I'm not surprised at all with this situation with Gonçalves. I don't think his game has fit well with this team. He's not consistent to play in the top 6, and his game is not a bottom 6. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved at some point. It would be great to bring up a guy like Stahoviak or even Peltier at some point to see what we have there.
So all I will say is this. Last year in the second half of the season, Gonçalves did fit in. There's a reason why the Lightning were looking at him as a potential top 6 forward heading into this year. He has had a down year. Does that mean that we can, this is etched in stone, the die is cast, this is it? Like he's just not a good fit, which is what the fans said? I mean, then you weren't acknowledging, and you aren't acknowledging what he did last year.
Sure.
So he needs to play better.
Yeah. I think we've said that. I think also, too, with the second part of that is other guys have played well. We talk about this competition. It doesn't justify you staying in the lineup. And we saw Dominic James come back. Gonçalves gets out.
I mean, Dominic James is a healthy scratch tonight.
That's what I mean, though. Like, his game needs to get... His game needs to find that next gear because I think...
you know what, Greg? In under 10 minutes against the Islanders, he drew 2 penalties.
He did. And the coaches noticed that. They do notice that.
Yeah.
I agree. But when you're in a top 6, and we'll end with this, you've got to do more than draw penalties. You've got
James isn't in the top 6 right now.
No, but like if he was getting an opportunity early on, or let's say you saw him up there in a top 6 role at times, because I would like to see him there permanently, but I also know you have to put up points. You can't just be somebody that skates up and down. That comes with scoring. Mm-hmm. That's just where the league is today. So good news is, like a lot of things, they have won despite some performances here that have been either because of inconsistent play or injuries, and I would anticipate it continues, and hopefully that is tonight against the Panthers. And we will be at it tomorrow recapping this game, and hopefully it is a fun game to recap, partner.
Yeah, I'll close with this. The first home game back after a trip is tricky. We've talked about that. The Lightning had a week-long trip, and this stretch ended 7 of 9 on the road. So let's see how they do that first home game back. Doug has a point that, like, end of a road trip can be a tricky game. Lightning had a good end of the road trip against the Islanders, but the previous end of the road trip, they had a flat game against the Islanders. Sometimes it happens. I don't think the Panthers are going to be having a flat game tonight. I think they are going to be revved up to play the Lightning. Now, their first home game, I think they have the Kings on Wednesday, right before the Kings come to the Lightning. That one might be a little different for them. Tonight, though, I think they are going to be revved up. The Lightning are ahead of them in the division. They can make up 2 points on the Lightning. This is their rival. The Lightning beat them in their building earlier this year. They are going to be ready. The Lightning need to meet that moment. And the way they meet that moment is making sure they defend at the level that they defended in the first meeting between the teams, where they had a very, very good performance against the Panthers defensively. That was what we would call a pitcher's duel, right? I mean, it wasn't a goalie steal for either side, although I thought Bobrovsky was asked to do more than Vasilevsky in that game. So I think that this game is a little tricky for the Lightning. Let's see how they do. And then they get a couple of days. They don't play again until Thursday. And incidentally, the way the schedule is playing out, they're catching the Kings in the second half of a back-to-back, and then they're catching Carolina, which comes in on Saturday. I believe the Hurricanes play at Panthers on Friday. So the next 2 games on the homestand, the Lightning will be rested at home, facing teams that will have played and traveled the night before. I understand it's from Sunrise. It's not a 3-hour plane ride, but that is a schedule advantage for the Lightning. But they need to take care of business tonight and build on this 2-0-1 streak against a team that, I mean, the Panthers have just played the Lightning so well in this building. Playoffs the last couple of years, regular season, it has been tough sledding for the Lightning against the Panthers, who've been an excellent road team, and they play well in Tampa. I would make the argument in the last couple of years, it almost feels like the Lightning have played better in Sunrise against the Panthers than they have here. Let's see how they do tonight.
All right. We'll have the game tonight. Be at it again tomorrow. Partner, great job.
You too.
As always. Doug Plagens, thank you. Thanks to Steve Versnick and all of you for listening. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.